Okay, good evening. This is City of Taft Planning Commission special meeting, Wednesday, June 19th, 2024. We're holding the meeting in City Hall, Council Chamber. The City of Taft Planning Commission meetings are being held in person with full capacity seating and are live streamed at https://www.youtube.com/user/City of Taft. Public comment can be made in person and also can be received per the following. Written comments may be dropped off in the drop box in front of City Hall. Comments may be emailed to the city clerk at cityoftaft.org. Made by phone to the city clerk's office at 661-763-1222. Public comments not made in person will be accepted up until 1 hour before meetings, and any comment received will be read into the record. With that, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance, and Ron, would you lead us in that?
Sure. Salute and pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And for this evening, the invocation is Pastor Bella Black.
Thank you. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the faithful servants that are here tonight. We thank you, Father, that they come together to fulfill your purpose for the city of Taft. We pray for your desire to fill them with your word. We pray that you will give them wisdom, patience, and guidance as they plan for the city of Taft, as they join with you to seek your will for what will take place. I pray, God, and I speak wisdom over them, and I thank you for them. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Chairman Livingston,
Here.
Vice Chairman Schertz,
Here.
Commissioner Dowden,
Here.
Commissioner Oren,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Okay. Since we have no request for public comments, I am going to move to item 2, which is the minutes. Do we have a motion?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Commissioner Oren,
Yes.
Commissioner Dowden,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson, she's not here, sorry, Vice Chairman Schertz.
Yes.
And Chairman Livingston.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, we're now on to item 3, study session, City of Taft Draft Housing Element Update for 2023 to 2031. Take it away.
It's all yours.
Mr. Director.
All right, thank you, Chairman Livingston. Today is the day, or at least day one of the last few days of working on this housing element. So I have pretty much a full update for you, but we are in what's called the public review period of the draft housing element. The entire document is available on the city website. The links are there from the homepage on the latest news section. We made some posts on the city Facebook page, and we'll probably do some reminders in the coming weeks to make sure people have plenty of time to review this first draft. And I didn't get this started. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay. So, as I mentioned, the draft is complete. We're in this public review period of the draft, which started on June 12th, a week ago, and will end on Friday, June 12th, 2024. Per state law on how this review...
July 12th. You said June 12th.
Oh,
twice.
July 12th. The days are the same, the months are different.
Yes.
And per state law, we need to give ourselves a 10 business day revision period. So 2 more weeks to either July 26th or that following Monday, whatever revisions are made based on the comments we receive. Because we've actually sent an informal review copy to the state, and we'll see if they respond in the 30 days or not. Hopefully it's more of a structural thing if like a particular topic wasn't covered or something like that, not really detailed. response from them. And then the second meeting date for the council in July, we'll ask them to authorize us to submit the formal draft after that 10-day business revision period, and we'll submit to HCD for the formal review, which we expect, we have like an extra week in July, the way the calendar falls, so probably that final week, I think it starts like the 29th or something like that, is probably when we'll be sending that off to the state, and they have 90 days to review it. So I'll recap all this at the end after I go over the structure of the document. Because this is a quite robust document, you have the entire thing now. I'm not gonna get in too much detail, I'm just gonna go through the overall topics covered, the structure of the document. We've gone over the first 5, highlighted in black here from the introduction, our regional housing need allocation plan, review of the previous element, the community outreach, we went over that last time and how many survey responses and all that we received. Housing needs assessment, and then section 6 through the end, some of the section numbers got shaken up, so if you compare this draft from even last month when we reviewed it, it's a little bit different. But we have our sites inventory, analysis of constraints, the big section affirmatively furthering fair housing, which is the new addition to this round of housing element, goals, policies, objectives, and programs, and then quantified objectives, and then we have 2 appendices. One is copies of the community survey, both in English and Spanish, and then a summary of the survey results from the online survey. And then Appendix B is the PowerPoints of the 2 community workshops we had back in March, along with pictures of one of the events and 3 pictures of our presentation and meeting with the oil tech kids at Taft High. So I'll try to make this quick. I'm covering every single part of this, but not getting into too much detail. So the first 3 sections are kind of your typical document introductory sections. So section 1 is the introduction, going over, the purpose, the legislative authority, which are the state policies, ensuring general plan consistency. The methodology just lists all of our data sources from the census data and other sources, and then how the housing element is organized by section. Section 2 is the regional need allocation plan, which just goes over and lists the housing need allocation count for both Taft and Kern County for the last go around, and this one comparing and contrasting how many units are expected in this housing period. And then section 3 was a section we did way in the beginning, which was reviewing the prior programs and their effectiveness, with a lot of them being continued to this element. So in section 4 is the community outreach and engagement. We went over a lot of this last time, but section 4.1 is kind of goes over the methodology of the meaningful outreach and engagement and the options for most effective response and feedback. And a lot of it was to be consistent with HCD expecting of how often you go out and how do you try to reach the most amount of people in the community. Section 4.2 is the summary of those efforts and the input we received. We go over the city website postings. Our survey we received, our final count is 235 responses.
That's good.
We had 130 8 years ago. The public meetings, both what we have and have not had, if you read the actual text in the public meetings section, it mentions presentations at Sit and Sip and maybe even some of the service clubs, which I'm anticipating sometime between now and when the document's finally done, now that we have a full element to present. The stakeholder engagement and interviews we had, the workshops, and the other outreach and engagement we conducted. Getting into section 5 is the housing needs assessment. Goes over the overview of Taft's housing market. With any kind of assessment, it goes over the demographic characteristics, so population growth, age, race, ethnicity, then employment characteristics, employment trends, what industries, and who the major regional and local employers are in Kern County and Taft. Household characteristics, so households, group quarters, composition. Tenure is not time like a professor. Tenure is whether it's renters or homeowners. And then income groups. Continuing in section 5.5 goes over the housing stock characteristics. What do we have in town? So the age of housing, the condition, housing costs, how many units are in each structure, vacancy rates, overpayment, overcrowding, assisted housing, and at-risk units. We don't have too much of that here, but it's more in cities that do have a more robust amount of housing in town, and a lot that are covered by some sort of covenant, typically affordable housing that ages out after the 30 or 50-year covenants, and the property owner wants to convert it to market rate. Those are the at-risk units, and all we have is the Heritage Park folks, and they're still 20-plus years away from their 55-year end of covenant. So 5.6, special needs households. It doesn't just mean special needs people. There are various categories of folks or households. So extremely low income, farm workers, those with disabilities, seniors, female headed households. That one has been a kind of a topic that's covered in a demographic groups that do all that kind of surveyed research for folks, but it covers female headed, male headed, married, unmarried, kids, no kids, all that breakdown if you look in that section. And then we also look at the large households, and homelessness. And then there's a short section of 5.7 of future housing needs, showing population growth trends into the 2040s, age, race, and ethnicity with those as well. Going on to section 6, the first kind of new section being presented, the site, which is the sites inventory and resource assessment. So 6.1 goes over the sites inventory, again, goes over our allocation number, the adequate site selection methodology. Part of it in there goes over the detail where before I showed you like 8,000 total units that could be accommodated by the vacant land in town. There's a little bit of a reduction, and you have to look into the tables there, and we'll probably present it at a later meeting once we get to the final copy. But it shrunk that number down a little bit because some of the properties maybe are a little close to the airport over here. So it's just, we have to do an assumption where we reduce the amount of expected development. So some are reduced 60 or 80% of their maximum. So you'll see those numbers, we don't quite reach that 7,000 or 8,000 number that I presented a few months ago. Then we look at the availability of adequate sites. There is an adjusted RENA where we did an assumption of about 5 ADUs a month, 5 ADUs a year, and subtracted that off as well. So the actual RENA is less than that 504. We have pipeline projects, which is primarily the Sandy Creek Estates, because that's an active tract. The actual list of the sites inventory, sites for low-income households, and then the all sites listing. 6.2 is environmental constraints, so it goes over agricultural areas, which we don't have. Williamson Act is connected agriculture, we don't have those. Steep slopes, geologic hazards, soils, flooding, wildlife hazards, biological resources, and hazardous sites. We don't have a lot of these conditions here other than the soils condition. 6.3 is the adequate infrastructure. It looks at public lands, our roadway system, transit, sewer, water, stormwater, and then SB 1087, I believe, is the bill where the local infrastructure purveyors of water and sewer need to prioritize if someone does propose a affordable housing project to make sure the utilities reach the projects. It's kind of like the city makes efforts to get affordable housing, the infrastructure purveyors do as well. I believe that's that bill. Other known constraints is more about issues with the property itself, so the dimensions, shape, access, condition of the property, easements, airport overlays, and the benefit to economic development in the area. 6.5 covers the opportunities for energy conservation, so it goes over the codes, Cal Green standards, building codes, housing element programs, energy efficiency incentives, and the incentives for low-income households or low-income development. And then financial administrative resources, it's more going over the available funding programs and funding history, and looks like maybe I got that cut off there. If it's not here later in my presentation, I apologize. It does go over a little bit of available of funding for purchasing homes or other means of financing. It might be in non-governmental in a minute here. So 7 goes over the analysis constraints. Every city goes through it. It's not that cities are bad or anything like that. We just, with this document, need to look at how our general plan encourages housing development, zoning ordinance and all these items I have listed here. So accommodating ag employees, emergency shelters, transitional housing, supportive housing. And I believe Commissioner Warren and Livingston, or I think our whole commission might have been here, where I did cross out SROs, the single room occupancies, as a use. But working with this consultant, we found that the state is still seeing those as a potential housing development type. You know, your non-hotels that have like a hotel studio-ish space that's considered an SRO is still considered a viable housing option for the state. So we're gonna be putting it back into the zoning code with a number of other changes that I'll go over in a minute. But we also go over manufactured housing, mobile homes, ADUs, boarding houses. Then we look at the development standards that are in our code, parking requirements, objective design standards, density bonuses that we have, and incentives, growth management, and then whether or not there's form-based codes. They're not requiring us to adopt form-based codes, but they'll look at it if the jurisdictions that do, and if the form, the way those are written, if those restrict housing development. And then we go over the compliance with state laws. I don't know all of these like the back of my hand like I should, but all of these have different angles of accommodating affordable housing, whereas SB 9 in the middle there was the one where it allows 2 units on single-family lots. But if you do a single-family home in an ADU, there's your 2 units, so that accommodates that right there. None of these others. SB 35 is the streamlined ministerial approval. That's for affordable housing as well. But I think that has to be like 100% affordable housing on that. Continuing with the constraints, we do look at the building code again, code enforcement, on and off site improvement standards, the permit and processing procedures, you know, for site plan review, CUPs, everything we process here, planning fees, impact fees, sewer capacity and connection fees, our permit fees, and whether or not the fee is available online, so folks are able to do their due diligence before they pursue a project. And then housing for persons with disabilities, family, group homes, and reasonable accommodation procedures, that's for handicapped persons on that. And then here's the non-governmental constraints. It goes over land constraints, the availability of land, the land costs, potential soil contamination, substandard parcels, both shape and small size, construction and labor costs, front-end costs, and then the availability of financing. And then I have a little typo there, 7.3 summarizes all these constraints, and it kind of, I believe there's a table there that generally says we don't have a lot of constraints that limit housing, but there are a number of things throughout this where we'll probably have to update our zoning code to address the different types of housing, like the SROs, getting those back in the code and things like that. And we'll be going over that the next couple months as we'll probably jump on them early before we even adopt the housing element. Onto section 8, which is the big one, affirmatively furthering fair housing. We go over the purpose and introduction. It's Assembly Bill 686, signed in 2018, which is an assessment of fair housing practices. The methodology, we go over the geography and data resources, an assessment of the fair housing, so fair housing support, city compliance, outreach capacity, local data, segregation and integration, income and poverty, family status, and persons with disabilities. One thing with this is the big thing that came out of this when you read through it is partnering with the entities that help close these gaps. So your affordable housing groups like Habitat for Humanity, Self-Help Housing, Kern County Housing Authority. There are the nonprofit groups that help people with rental assistance and things like that. That's one thing that came out of a lot of this. We look at racially and ethnically concentrated areas of poverty. Now, those are the poverty areas, and then racially concentrated areas of affluence. Is there like a high level? So your low-income area and your Beverly Hills, basically. Do you have that kind of disparity in your income levels by tract area? And we don't. There is the central part of Taft. I think a combination is seen as a low-income area. it's not a high disparity, but it is an area of focus you'll see throughout, section 8. And I think a combination of that is, all the residents that are at Heritage Park are most likely, fixed income, social security, income folks that drives that average down. And I'm sure a lot of the small units we have in the central part of town as well, those rents are probably low, those incomes are probably low,
Houses are aged.
we have a lot of seniors in town. You may or may not know those that are, living social security check to social security check kind of thing. I had a family that way as well. So that central area has the low income levels, I think even below that 50% level. And that's probably a big part of it, but they are in an affordable housing location, but there are some measures in that you'll see where that central part area is the area of focus for those entities and agencies that could help rental assistance or vouchers or whatever is out there that could help them stay in their home or rental unit that they're in. So on the assessment of fair housing, we go over all these other items as well. Transportation, transit, being near education, economic development opportunities, disproportionate housing needs. Is there a severe cost burden? Overpayment by owners. Again, it's more the central area. They are paying essentially that last cent. The threshold of overpaying is paying more than 30% of the income you take towards your housing. So that small social security check is probably a good chunk is going to rent or other housing costs. And then housing conditions. Then we go over again, homelessness, displacement, the variables from income, demographics, and housing, and then looking at the sites inventory and kind of overlaying all those items. And then going over meaningful actions to address fair housing issues. Table 824 summarizes the fair housing issues, contributing factors, and meaningful actions, and it's more of a quick text summary of all the fair housing assessment that's done in that section. And then we go into 9, which takes all those other sections and lists the programs, which again, I'll mention, we have these 4 goals, but the programs we'll be going over the next couple slides. A lot of them are what little tweaks and changes can we do to our zoning code to make sure we're in compliance with SROs and group homes and things like that. There's little definitions and text changes that the state's made over the years, but the endless amounts of bills that they pass and probably 20 plus a year related to housing is pretty tough to keep up if you're not only keeping up on that stuff. So the goals we have are pretty much the same from the prior element, but little bit of an updating and tweaking. So goal 1, promote the development, improvement, and maintenance of housing in locations best served by the community's facilities and infrastructure and that are compatible with the surrounding neighborhoods. Very general, but there are the policies, objectives, and programs listed below that in that section. Again, with goal number 2, conserve and maintain sound, viable neighborhoods that are well-built, well-maintained, safe, and sanitary. It's the whole combination of being active with permitting and code enforcement, but code enforcement that encourages to fix any dilapidation issues and things like that, not a rush to demo a structure just because paint's chipping. Not that we've done that, just they don't want, there's some places that are a little more aggressive than others. So goal number 3, provide equal and fair opportunity of housing choice for all residents regardless of race, creed, national origin, age, gender, or ethnic group affiliation. That is probably almost verbatim from the fair housing laws that have been in place for a while, where you cannot discriminate who you sell or rent to. And then goal number 4 is to encourage energy conservation for single and multifamily residential developments. Back when we had this goal before, it was when solar was just starting to get going. But one thing in goal number 4 is to really encourage the weatherization of homes, sealing all those air leaks that hurt both your heating and your cooling of your home. Now getting into the programs, I'll just go over the program titles here. Program number 1 goes over the adequate sites. I will highlight the first one. That's a state law that's been in place for a while, where all the sites that we identify, if they develop with housing or not housing, we'll have to make a finding in that approval at the planning commission level that says it's building a certain number of lots or units consistent with, or if we did build a commercial on it, we've lost the potential of, let's say, 100 homes or 100 units, but we still have X number of properties with 800 more units of potential, so we're good on the no net loss, depending on our approvals, so. And then we go through program 2, which is housing rehabilitation and code enforcement. We carried over our prior housing rehabilitation programs. We don't really have the grant funding in place like we used to, but rehabilitation is a need. So however we can get that done through, if we find the right funding that works out, making sure the public information is out there, limit our demolitions that we do in code enforcement, just those that are on last legs or have been stripped by, individuals.
Fire is a big issue.
Yeah. And then code enforcement information as well, getting that out to the public and how they can improve their home and property. Program 3 goes over supporting home ownership opportunities. We've had the first time home buyer program, so the funding. Program 3B is the education and information on it. And then 3C, market rate entry level homes, that's a carryover as well, which is still encouraging Sandy Creek Estates to keep doing what they're doing out there. See if we could get the new builder to start that back up again and finish that project with 300 plus lots left. Program 4 is rental assistance and tenant protection. Again, these are the connecting people with the resources that are in Kern County for housing choice vouchers, rental assistance, and how to preserve affordable units. I think it's 5 and 6 have quite a long list of housing programs that we're getting into what will be a lot of the zone text changes that we'll be doing in the next couple months or years. The early ones of removing constraints is just encouraging the multifamily rental housing development. We do have some ag zone property out on the east side of town. It's not designated agricultural, doesn't have Williamson Act or anything like that, but because we have the zone, we will be, okay, it's not on this one, but we will be defining how farm worker housing could go on that property if someone, whoever the property owner is, wanted to put some housing out there, certainly a lot closer to the farming areas that are on the other side of the canal. But we do need to make some tweaks to our emergency shelter section. There's been some updates in the years since we last addressed it. Low barrier navigation centers, it's a long name for temporary housing for homeless people where there's less low barriers to going in, fewer restrictions on whether it's pets or curfew or all that kind of stuff.
Drug use.
Yes, and so that's that one, and the better definitions in the document. The next two, transitional supportive housing, we've done this before, but we have to update that as well. Again, SROs, single room occupancy, and then we need to differentiate better between manufactured housing and mobile homes. We're gonna have a pretty good discussion in the future about unit size requirements, just to provide that flexibility for whoever wants to provide more studios and less 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, and some of our square footages maybe are a little older compared to what today's product might be, but we'll go over that at a later date. It's been recommended to me to have that conversation with the 5 of you and go over whether or not we should even have square footage minimums. And then go over things like setbacks, AB 2234. We don't have too many folks that do post entitlement phase permitting, but it's something that the state wants us to adopt and address, like with some of the housing options. 5M, definition of family. That term is used throughout all the affordable housing funding and all that, and family has its own definition, so it's gonna be a simple edit to our definition section of the zoning code, just so that's covered and addressed and it matches what the state addresses as a family. And then provisions for residential care facilities, and then I mentioned before that water and sewer priority, which was at AB or SB 1087 in that earlier slide. Program 6 and 7, accessory dwelling unit strategy. We're gonna update our ADU ordinance, and then last night at City Council, we had the budget updated for our consultant to work on ADU pre-approved plans. I got a general okay from the council that we'll probably use the Economic Development Committee as kind of a jury reviewer where we'll be provided with more than what we're looking for the number of plans. We're looking for 3 square footage sizes, probably a studio, 1 bed and 2 bed type templates for people to work with. And we'll work out a user guide for the public to utilize it, or so they know how to utilize it and what the permit fees will be up front. And we'll update that every year as we update our fees every year. And then, and we'll be promoting that on the city website where they can't necessarily get the whole plans, but they'll be able to review what the floor plans look like and go, okay, I want a studio in my backyard or one bedroom attached to my main home structure and things like that. We'll go over with the planning commission as well. I think that since we have that formed economic development committee, they'd be a good jury to review the floor plan templates. And then program 7, fair housing services, again, assistance and support and information, again, connecting the folks of Taft to all the entities that help with affordable housing in the county. 9 is the next lengthy, or we do have 8, homelessness prevention and connecting people to homeless services. But then program 9, housing production, streamlining and incentives. So we're, the multifamily housing project at 9A is still generally pushing one that was approved way back in 2011 in the downtown area, but it's more generalized now. Find a adequate site that, and work with the developers to build a multifamily housing project. Also encourage infill housing, self-help housing, which is both the self-help enterprises and Habitat or any other entities that are formed in the near future. Keep pushing for another senior housing project, because as we all know, the 60 units at Heritage are always full. And then work on funding for new low-income housing developments, infrastructure assistance. Again, making sure that units, particularly affordable housing, have units designed for those with development disabilities. And then these here are addressing those bills I was mentioning earlier, where make the changes to our zoning code to address SB 330, 35, 9, and AB 2011. Update our density bonus provisions, identify the low-income opportunity sites, and then ensuring consistency with the general plan when we work on all these amendments. And then we're at the end here. The last 3 sections, 10, 11, and 12, quantified objectives is a short list on table 10-1, where it's more of listing the anticipated units of construction, rehabilitation, and conservation. It's a pretty high optimistic number that's listed there. I might ask to have it lowered a bit, but still be over the 504 total that the state's looking for. And then section 11, as I mentioned, is appendix A, has copies of the community survey in English and Spanish, along with a summary of the online survey responses, both just what they selected, and there was an open comment period where you could see everybody's written out comments that they provided. And then section 12 is appendix B. It has our community workshop presentations, both in English and Spanish. On the meeting dates we had on March 14th and 21st at the Transit Center. And then there's pictures from the second workshop, and then the presentation to the Oil Tech Academy students. There's a good photo where they did the exercise where they wrote their notes on Post-it notes, and they're somewhat geographically
Set up.
oriented on this aerial map you'll see. And that's in the full copy of the document. And we had that meeting with them before the March 14th workshop. So that is the whole document in summation. Our next steps, as I mentioned before, we're in the middle of the public review period from June 12th to July 12th. The city has a 10-day revision period after that, after July 12th. And then on July 16th, we will go to the city council for them to, doesn't approve the document in any way, it's just more the HCD wants to see authorization from your approval authority, which is your city council, to submit the formal draft, which will probably be going in on July 29th, because the 16th is in the middle of the 10 business day revision period. So once that clears and the edits are made, we'll ship that off to HCD, but I don't think it's technically required, but we will be publishing it again, replacing the draft you see online with the one that has all the revisions, because it gives us another opportunity to do one more comb through all 400 pages of this and catch the last tweaks and, legibility and any little edits that need to be done. But then again, we do have a 90-day review period by the state. And my best guess is that the earliest date, not earliest, but the latest date we should hear from them is October 28th. But with that, since we've gotten the okay from the council, we'll probably be working through the summer to get the ADU plan stuff done. So we'll work with the Economic Development Committee and the 5 of you and the council to get that done probably in time for comments to be received from the state. So those are our next steps after today. So I'm available for any questions you may have, but if anybody has any questions about this document, they hear about it, direct them to me, have them shoot me an email so we can record it. They can call me as well if they have a simple question about something in the text. If it's purely somebody who loves the proofread things out there, feel free to shoot me an email about where all the errors are. I'm starting to spot them already. Some of it's basic formatting, because I believe our consultant may have done a quick PDF conversion and tables got all wonky, so don't worry about that. But if there's outright words spelled wrong for what, from or for, neither one's gonna get caught. So those that love to proofread, feel free to read it and see if you catch things I didn't catch and our consultant didn't catch. So I'm gonna end my presentation there. We've made it to the official first draft, and I look forward to the comments we have from the state. I think we're lucking out that we're kind of at the end of the line of reviewers. Southern California and Northern California has gone through all this, so we've learned their best practices or not so good practices, and we think we have a lot of the stuff that the state wants to see in our document, and we did the outreach that we did, so I think we have a pretty good chance that it won't take too many rounds of revisions. It's just we gotta wait for that first big 90-day review, and then we're off to the races to finish it. Hopefully by end of year, probably January of 25 would probably be when it gets to council.
Okay.
So I'll leave it at that.
Well, first of all, there's a lot of pages to read. I'm sure you figured that part out already. And I would really encourage you to read through the whole document now. I know we've touched on portions of it, but this is, my guess is it's actually bigger than the rest of the planning, the general plan.
Yes.
And so it's important to have a kind of a good sense of what it's going to do and what it's going to recommend. So I'd recommend reading through it. If you've got questions right now, I'm certainly happy to let you ask, but I got a feeling that most of us didn't get a chance to read all 400 pages.
Not all of it.
Yeah, thank you, Mark, for working on this. I know it's been a long process, and you've been working hard at it, and this is not an easy task, and it's cost a lot of time and money, and you've had to go over and over and change, and yeah, it's a really nice program you've put together, and
Thank you.
it's a lot, and we appreciate it. I've seen some of the ADU designs that some other counties have done or cities, and yeah, they've kind of done like 3 or 4 designs, and then each design will have like, okay, a contemporary look or a modern look or a farmhouse look.
Siding material.
So it's the same thing, but just different look to it. They come very complete, ready to go. They're already pre-approved basically, and the one thing I did notice on some specifically that I looked at were they were laid out, the layout was kind of, it'd be like a 1,100 square foot, 4-bedroom, 1-bath type. So it's like, it does the job, but it's not real comfortable per se, or I've talked to some people, I was like, yeah, I wouldn't build that.
For full
So-
disclosure, even though we're not getting into it, the ADUs can be up to 1,200 square feet.
Yeah.
So that's where you're gonna get some 3-bedroom,
Yeah.
squeeze in 4 bedrooms, but I think we're gonna aim for those studio 1 and 2 bedrooms.
Yeah,
To be more realistic. We know the size of our properties, we understand the land left, especially on the back sides that could utilize the alley access, so we'll definitely aim towards, can this fit on Lucard or Calvin, or, and then which ones would fit, west of 10th where they don't have as much alley access. There still is quite a bit, but you have, slope differences and things like that. So we'll look at all of that and make sure, the three we choose would fit 90% of the lots here, and there's, no matter what their orientation or slope difference or issues like that.
Yeah, that it'd be practical, that someone would want to be, like, they could be comfortable there, and not just that, yeah, it has a bedroom and it has a bathroom, but the kitchen's, 5 feet by 5 feet.
Yes.
That was just one of the things I noticed. I looked at all three of these, like, these aren't very comfortable. They do the job, I get it, and it's a different town than ours, but just in general, I'd recommend making them a little more comfortable.
Some cities have the problem of not having enough affordable housing for large families. And so that four-bedroom is an attempt at getting at that,
Yeah, and I get it.
Give you
however
a small
small it
single
is.
family. And
Right.
still use it for permitting
Right,
purposes.
for the purposes of meeting other requirements in the housing arena.
But people are still going and designing their own to make it fit, because
Yeah.
it's so uncomfortable, that design, I just want people to be able to use it, It's cool to have a design out, but if no one uses it, then it's,
I gather the studio would be the one for those secondary units on the same lot, like the
They're all on the same
garage conversions.
They'll all be on the same lot. We're not permitting garage conversions unless they have like extra garage space.
Okay.
There's been a couple where, they've had two garages and they decided to convert one, or garage/storage structure, so they convert one, but they still have the parking for the house.
Okay.
The one thing with these ADUs specifically, we won't require any additional parking whatsoever, so if they have this big white spot in the backyard, they won't have to figure out how to design it and still squeeze in like a little pad driveway. If they wanna do it, that'd be great for whoever's gonna live there, but we're not requiring it as part of the process.
Right.
It's just, if you fit it right into that corner of your backyard and you meet all the building requirements, then you're good. The person will have to park in the street. And that's kind of the intent. It's more to be on the smaller side, one, maybe two bedroom, not a lot of cars there, so we don't flood the streets with the street parking. But, if people can design it where they can squeeze in a little, 9-10 foot wide driveway on the side of the unit, that'd be great. But we can't require it per state law, so.
Okay, anybody else got questions?
No, I'm pretty clear on how this is.
And feel free to share this with everybody, give them my email and phone number, have them reach out to me, even if they have no idea what's going on and they want a little summary or something, I can shoot that out to them, and then also direct them to the video once we have it posted on the city website, and we could go from there and let them know there will be a second draft to review later in August. This is the first go-around. Don't anticipate a lot of changes, but this is the opportunity for folks to review and get back to me on any little tweaks and changes they think might be needed in the document.
Okay.
Thank you.
Further questions? We're going to move on to item number 4, which is the consideration of canceling the regular planning commission meeting and holding a special planning commission meeting in July. Let me get back to that item. It's back here somewhere. I know you hit it.
I'll be out of the country on the 13th.
Oh, is that why?
No, I'm leaving the country on the 13th, so yeah.
Go ahead, Mark, and just,
Yes, Chairman Livingston, we had talked about it in January when we set the schedule. We thought this might happen, but last night, council made the motion to not have their July 2nd meeting. So we won't have our city attorney available, but also, that's also the evening of our local fireworks show. Not to let an event block government functions, but we're all one community here, so I don't think we'd like to be in here and everybody else has an hour head start down at Rosa Trails before us for the evening down there. So the city is open on Wednesday the 3rd and will be open Friday the 5th. But this recommendation is to cancel the regular meeting on the 3rd and schedule a special on the 17th, which will be the day after we get the authorization for the formal submittal. And I could give you an initial update based on whatever early responses we have. And then I'll give a supplementary update in August once we get it sent off to HDD and anything to anticipate with that process. if we get any early comments from HCD on the document. So the motion that we do need read and made is on the agenda for you, and I available for any questions or if there's any other discussion, but with the,
17th, I won't be available.
okay.
And you said
I
you-
don't anticipate
I'll
a
be gone also, yeah.
So
I
that's
probably won't
two
be
down.
able to, week after either, I got.
we could schedule it for now, and then, if we're not able to on the 17th, we can cancel, but three
Yeah, if
is
we
a
have three
sufficient
people, we
quorum.
should still meet.
Yeah,
Does it need a roll call vote?
yes.
Yes, it will.
Yeah.
And I
And
need a
even though
motion.
you're not
Got a
gonna be here, you
motion?
can't vote.
We haven't yet. We need to have the motion read. That's item 1 and 2?
One is the actual motion,
Okay, I'll
two
make the
is
motion, a motion to
environmental.
cancel the regular planning commission meeting on Wednesday, the 3rd, 2024, and hold a special planning commission meeting on Wednesday, July 17th, 2024. And do we need this too, to find the
Yeah.
activity?
Yeah,
Till they fix
It's
it.
not a project per the California Environmental Quality Act as set forth in section 15060 and section 15378 of the CEQA guidelines.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Oren,
Yes.
Commissioner Dowden,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Schertz,
Yes.
Chairman Livingston.
Yes.
Thank you.
So 4-0 vote with one absence. And then if for some reason we have to cancel because we can't get all three of us here, just, you'll do
Nadine
that.
will probably reach out the week following 4th of July, just to
Remind
see if the
everybody.
three of you that, are remaining for a quorum are gonna be able to make it, and then we'll go from there, but no matter what, we'll present there and then present on, forget the date, it's like August 6th or something like that for the regular meeting in August. That's when we'll know everything's been revised and sent off to the state, and I can give you an update then as well.
Yeah, given the timing, I don't think that either one of them is really make or break, so.
Yeah.
I prefer to have regular meetings, but
Yeah.
no problem with that. Okay, so let's move on to Planning Director's report.
The only thing I'll say is I'll give all credit for this update to our consultants, Precision Civil Engineering. I think it was fortunate of us to find a local Central Valley firm like this, and they'll be working on the ADU program, plans as well. The one example that I brought up at the council meeting last night was the city of Kerman, which is about 10 miles due west of Fresno. They had a program adopted back in November of 2022, before the state law that got adopted in October of just last year. And if you go to their, if you're curious, go to their website, look up the ADU program document they have there. It's a really good public information document where it just shows the, I think it's 3 floor plan layouts that they offer there. And it still kind of briefly summarizes all the development standards with setbacks and all those kind of things. So if anybody wants to get a preview of maybe what we'll have 6 or so months from now, working on this pre-approved plan thing, Kerman's a good one to look at, and they were given a Central Valley Planning Award for their program being that ahead of the curve compared to some other cities. And again, it's not gonna be you know, we're not gonna be going gangbusters, but if it gets our permits up from 1 to 2 a year to 5 or so a year, and they turn out to be really effective, you know, as rental units, extra space for family, a teenager that doesn't wanna leave the house. You know, all those options are available to folks with these units, so, hopefully we're able to make it, be that much more helpful to get them built here in town. But all credit goes to Precision Civil Engineering, their crew, Bonique, Jenna and Shin, they've been good to work with, and I saw their names on that document from 2022 on, for the city of Kerman, so they've been really busy with, helping out all of us in the Central Valley, so all credit to them.
That sounds good. As we do not have a city attorney, we'll skip the city attorney statements, but I'm pretty sure I can tell you what he would say, no comments. Any commissioner comments?
We got a brand new grandson, Kyler Schertz, just got born Monday.
Oh, cool.
Nice. So that's nice.
Anybody have any particular thing they need to say today?
We had a really good show at the Fox Comedy Show dinner.
Yes.
Ed Gaither did a bang-up job getting that put together, and it ran smoothly, and Comics said they would happy to be back anytime we need them, so if he didn't make it this time, make it next time, and look forward to other shows. I think he's getting some other things set up, and do your stuff in Taft if we have it, use it or lose it, so that's it.
Ron? Any comments?
No, no comments.
I do notice that they've started paving over at the Kmart, although I will say it's a little weird-looking paving on the actual parking lot.
I think they maxed whatever supply they had brought to the site, so, and if you notice, none of the striping is started yet.
Yeah.
So that means that they're not done. There's still a couple more steps that they need to do, but one thankful thing is the area from all the shop buildings to the main driveway,
Yes.
those potholes are gone.
All taken care of.
So that's great. There are a couple of things to watch out for that we'll work with them to adjust. The sewer caps are still sunken, so those are kind of man-made potholes.
Yeah.
So watch out for those. There's only 2 I spotted, so we'll work with them to figure out how to raise those so it's a little more flush and not much of a dip there.
They look like they got around almost all the way to the backside when I was taking a look at it. That parking lot is spalling, so I'm hoping there'll be a little bit more.
Yes, we're keeping on them about it, and I may have mentioned to some folks, we were hearing a June date for opening, but it's actually turning out to be more mid-July, so keep an eye out.
Okay.
The manager that's assigned there, I just met her today, told her to make sure to reach out to the chamber to get that word out to a lot of people who have their emails with the chamber. So look for their flyers we'll probably start seeing them in July. And it sounds like they've already gone through a initial hiring period for the staff there, so they're getting ready to go. And the sign's up on the wall there too, the kind of corrugated metal little facade thing they added to the old Kmart building for their entry, so
Yeah.
they're really getting going there.
I see that. Have we got any news about the Apple Store?
It's slow going.
Still
They
doing
made
it by
it-
himself?
One unique thing is that the Tractor Supply folks bought their part of the shopping center property. So now there's
Really?
technically a property, east-west property line splitting that, so may have been a little preoccupied with that, which I think we brought here. Oh, no, it was a lot line adjustment, so it
Yeah.
wasn't brought before you.
Right.
So we did that late last year, early this year, so the transaction maybe,
Well, that's the kind of transaction that's completed, make it easier for him to finish his.
right. So there's a couple property owners there between Burger King shopping center owner and the Tractor Supply entity, so.
Okay. Well, that's it for me. I suppose we're looking at identification of representative to the city council. How'd that go for you when you went, Mr. Dowden?
Good. It was not very exciting.
I bet not.
Yeah.
Well, I will be around this time, so if you want, I'll be happy to go ahead and make that. It's gonna be in, the end of July, it looks
July
like anyways.
16th, yes.
So it would be the same time I'd normally have done it.
Yeah,
Just, so, I'd be happy to go ahead and do that, unless anybody else
Okay, by
No,
me.
no.
feels real
Other
need
country.
to
Thank you.
to make the presentation. Some people look like they might run from the presentation.
Maybe-
Okay, well, then that's good. In that case, we just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion?
Second?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
That's it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.